Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Maddie. I run EdTech Classroom, the blog, podcast, and of course YouTube channel. Today is Vlogmas Day 9. Now if you aren't familiar with Vlogmas, it's something that a bunch of YouTubers do where we post a new video every single day in December up until Christmas. So like I said, today is Vlogmas Day 9, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some ideas for incorporating Google Jamboard into your classroom. Now I've posted a bunch of Google Jamboard tutorial videos on my channel before, including a complete tutorial for beginners who are brand new to this tool that I'll have linked in the video description down below. In today's video, we're really going to be focusing on some ideas for incorporating social emotional learning lessons, or SEL lessons, into your classroom using Google Jamboard. So without further ado, let's get started. So I went to jamboard.google.com and I created a new file, and this is what my screen looks like. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see that it says Untitled Jam. So our very first step is to give this file a name. Now in Google Jamboard, the file that we're looking at here is called a jam. So I'll go ahead and click up here where it says Untitled Jam, and I'm going to give this file a title. So I'm going to call this one Rose, Bud, and Thorn, because I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a rose, bud, and thorn activity in Jamboard. Now when I'm ready, I can go ahead and press the OK button. So right now, this big blank white slide here is kind of like the whiteboard that you have in Google Jamboard. So I often like to compare this tool to a digital whiteboard. So the first step of what I want us to do is I want us to divide our screen here into 3 different categories. On the left-hand side, we'll have rose, in the middle we'll have bud, and on the right-hand side we'll have thorn. And at the top of our screen, we're going to add some directions for students. I'm going to be asking students with this activity here, the prompt, what is a rose, bud, and thorn of your day? This is a nice exit ticket activity that has a social emotional lens to it. So the first step to add these directions, I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side, and I'm going to click on this sticky note tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just type in directions. So I've just typed in directions here. Now if I want, I can also change the color of the sticky note. So let's say I want to change this to be this green color here. I can go ahead and do that by clicking on green, and then when I'm ready, I can go ahead and click the save button. Now you'll see that my directions sticky note has added right up here to the top. Now I can move it around just by clicking and dragging. I can also resize it to make it look a little bit bigger, and I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to, at the top of my screen, add a text box to add the directions for students. When using Google Jamboard in your classroom, I highly recommend that you make the directions really clear for students so that they know exactly how they're supposed to be interacting with the file. So I'll go over back to that left-hand side where you see all these creative features. I'm going to add the text box tool. I will just click wherever I want to type, and I will start typing our directions. So I will say, what is a rose, bud, and thorn of your day? Please write each in the categories below. Now again, I can resize this just by clicking and dragging. And I'm going to make this kind of go all the way across if possible. All right, it doesn't fit perfectly, so I'll just kind of rearrange this, and I can also center it. I can move these around. It's really just like, I like to kind of just play around with this and see. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So next, just like the directions state, I personally want to have 3 different categories. So on the left, I'm going to have the rose category, like I said, in the middle, that bud category, and then on the right-hand side, I will have thorn. So to do that, I'm going to create these categories using the shapes tool. So I'll go back over here to the left-hand side, and now so far we've used the sticky note tool, we've used the text box tool, and now we're going to use this shape tool here. Now right now, you'll see when I hover my mouse over the shape, it says circle. That's because it's currently selected to be a circle, but I want to choose a rectangle. So I'll click on the circle, and I'll click on the triangle next to the circle, the really small triangle, and I will then choose this square, and I will click and I will drag to create a rectangle. Now this is just like how you would normally create a shape in Google Slides, for example, or another similar tool. So now that I've added my rectangle, I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of it. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. You can use your keyboard shortcut. I use Command C because I'm on a Mac, and I can paste it with Command V. Another way that you can make a copy of this shape is you can go up here to the three dots and you can press duplicate and it will make a copy. So now I can rearrange these and I think that looks pretty good. They're not perfectly centered, but I'll go ahead and fix that in just a little bit. Personally, when I create these different sections in Google Jamboard for students, I like to have them be color-coded. So I'll click on one of these, let's say this rose one, for example. Now I'm gonna go up here to the top with this paint bucket tool where it says fill color, and I'm actually gonna change this to be red. So now you'll see that I've changed the color of this rectangle. If I want, I could also change the border color if I wanted to make that red as well. Now in the middle, I'll go back up to this fill color, and I think I'm going to choose green for this one. And I will also change the border color to be green. And then lastly for thorn, I will click on that one. I'll go back to the fill color and I'm gonna make this one maybe yellow, and I will change the outline to be yellow as well. So now I've created my three different categories here. And I'm just gonna kind of center it a little bit, and that looks pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to actually add the headers to each of these sections. Now there's a couple of different ways I could do this. I could use that sticky note tool, I could use the text box tool, but I think I want to use the image tool to actually find an image of a rose, a bud, and a thorn. So I'll go up here to where it says add image. And Google Jamboard has this really awesome feature where you can upload an image file from your computer, but you can also do a Google image search. So I'll click on Google image search and I'm going to type in rose. Then when I press enter, then you'll see a bunch of pictures of roses appear. So I'm going to choose this rose option here. So I'll click on it and then I'll go down here to where it says insert and I'll click on insert. And now you'll see that this image has been added to our file. So I just I'm dragging it and I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller and I'm gonna put it at the top here. And the rose category is good to go. So next we will go ahead and add the bud. So I will do the same thing. I'll go over here to add image, and this time I'm gonna search for bud. And see if I can find one I like. I think that first one's pretty good, so I'll just go ahead and click on it and press insert. And again, I can just resize. And that one looks pretty good too. And then next we'll do the last one, which is thorn. And I'll press insert. And so now I've added a rose, bud, and thorn image to our files here. All right. So now the last thing that I would do to prepare this slide before sharing it with students is I would go ahead and grab this text box here on the left-hand side, and I would actually create a text box for them. So I might say something like, type your rose here, and resize it. And so now this space acts almost as a parking lot for students to know where they're specifically supposed to add their rows or where they're supposed to type. I can just copy it and I can say, type your bud here. I'll center that one a little bit better. And then lastly, we'll say, type your thorn here. So that was a really quick and simple example of how you might create a social emotional activity in Google Jamboard. The next thing I want to share with you guys is how you might want to share this file with your students. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this. If you use a learning management system, you might want to share this file with students through Google Classroom, where each student has their own copy of the file. That's probably the best way to do this. You can also share this file with students by pressing this share button, but keep in mind that in doing so, if you add all of your students here via email, they are each going to receive this same file, and all of the students would then be editing this file at the same time. So typically, the way that I like to use this is I like to create these activities, and I like to have students each have their own copy. So again, probably the best way to do this would be to share this through Google Classroom if that is a tool that you use with your students in your classroom. Another way that you can share Google Jamboard files if you don't use Google Classroom is you can have students make a copy by changing the URL. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second here. So now I'm going to show you that handy URL trick that I was just talking about for how you can adjust the URL to share this file with students so that each student has their own copy. This trick you can use with Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, etc. It's a really handy trick to force students to make their own copy. Now the first step of what you will want to do is you'll want to click this share button, and you're going to want to change this so that anyone with the link can view the file. Now press done. The next step is you will actually go up to this URL bar right here, and you're going to delete everything that comes after the slash there, and you're going to delete it where it says viewer, and you're going to type in the word copy. Then when you press enter, now you will see that this URL says, would you like to make a copy of Rose, Bud, and Thorn? You can now share this URL directly with students through whichever way you typically like to share links. And then when students open up this link, they will then be prompted to make a copy. They'll click this button that says make a copy, and it will add a copy of this file to their Google Drive. So again, a couple different ways that you can do this. I highly recommend using Google Classroom because it automatically does this trick for you. You can just have each student have their own copy in their Google Drive, or if you aren't a Google Classroom user, this is a handy workaround for how you can still share these files with students. The one thing you will want to note if you do use this force copy URL trick is you will want to make sure that students then, when they're done, they press that share button in the corner and share the file back with you. Thank you so much for watching today's video all about some ideas for incorporating Google Jamboard in your classroom. If you liked this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I post weekly tech tutorials for teachers, and during Vlogmas, I'm posting a new video every single day in December up until Christmas. So I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Bye, friends.